thank you everybody for being here. It's very exciting for me, for Ale, to be here and sharing a little bit of our history and how we work, how we do things in New York. I'm Rafael Azzi, I'm the founder of Azzi+Co, which is a PR agency and a business development agency. And then I will tell also how I'm doing things. It's not how I made it because it's going to take a little while. And then Ale and I, we are best friends since we were 15 years old. We had different careers. And then, what, 4 years ago? 4 years ago. He joined Azzi+Co and now he's my business partner. People say that don't work with your friend, because there's always fight, etc. We always fight, so it's just more the same. We keep fighting. So it doesn't change much, And then I'll leave one.
Yes. No, we're very honored to be here. It's a pleasure. Not only at Tutundjan, such a respected organization, but also as a part of Latin American Fashion Summit. I'm sure you're all having a really wonderful time being here in Miami during these days. Very inspiring. A lot of amazing work happening across the board. And yes, we're very happy to share a little bit about our story.
Yeah. And we didn't do like any presentations to this. I think this should be really a conversation of, we can answer questions, I can make questions. I think that's the best way. So I'll tell, I moved to New York 14 years ago. I used to be the PR for a very famous jewelry designer in Brazil called Jack Vartanian. He gave me it was a project for 3 months, and it's been 14 years. So when I arrived in New York, I'm like, not coming back. So I stayed there from Jack Vartanian doing the PR. It was a small agency, so a small company, so I started doing the sales too. So that's, you're gonna understand when I finish the story, the PR and sales together. So I started doing the sales and PR, and it was great because I could see what PR was connecting to sales, because yes, we were dressing celebrities, and then what, So that's where I started seeing that this connection, PR and sales. From there, I went to Birman, worked with him for a year, and then to Tory Burch, do international marketing, to Tory Burch, and then from Tory Burch, I decided to open my own agency. So after taking Tory Burch, I was international marketing at Tory Burch to 27 countries, so from the US to 27 different countries. I decided to open a PR agency called Azzi PR at the time. Azzi is my last name, to help international Brazilian companies go into the US. And then very quickly I realized that I could do much more than just the PR, that I could do PR and sales, and not only for Brazilian companies, for international companies. Especially Latin American companies. The way I assume everyone is Latin here, right? So the way, I think so, right? Most of them, well, most of us, right? So the way we operate in Latin America, at least my experience, it's very casual. We do everything very casual. So if I was American, I would have a PowerPoint here, and then I would go to the topics and and the list, which is very efficient. So we are very casual, and when we come to New York or to the US, there are many protocols that I had to learn myself. So that's something that we teach a lot to our clients. So when I say, we help brands coming to the US, means that we help from the beginning, We see at the lookbooks, we look at the line sheets, a little bit of the pricing, imagery. We don't do imagery, or we don't touch on the product, but we give them, like, listen, this is how they want, this is how it should be, because again, we might have the product, but everything else, imagery, pricing, agility, consistency, those are things that the US, that they do the best. They're the best on it. Like, that's what I learned at Tory Burch. Consistency, right? And, keep doing right, fast, So that's something that I learned. So that, we started helping a lot our clients on that. So when I started, it was just PR. So I would go, to Vogue, to the influencers, and to Harper's Bazaar, and to everyone, but I was always lacking that, okay, so what, I remember doing an introduction from a client of mine to Moda Operandi. It was a jewelry brand, and then they met, and then they start selling. And then I'm like, this is also PR, because this is also public relations. It's just, the relations is just not with the press, but it's a different public, so it's a buyer. They sold a lot. Moda made money, my client made money, and I didn't have a cut because I was just a PR. So I said, okay, there's a business opportunity here. So then Alex joined and we started doing the wholesale. Wholesale and PR, again, I see it, I do more PR. Wholesale, it's more, it's a different beast, and Alex will talk a little bit more about that. But I see it as public relations. I always say that, and as I said, it's all public relations, but with different publics. My client wants the buyers, we go after the buyers. Wants the press, we go after the press, you know. But all I think it's in the US. One thing I learned, it's very departamentalizado.
It's very compartmentalized.
Yes, you know. So okay, if you are a showroom, you're only a showroom. If you are a PR agency, you're only a PR agency. It's very rare combining both. Mm-hmm. But you know, we're doing, and it's working. It's not easy. You know, it's very challenging because they're totally two different beasts. You know, on PR, you don't touch on people's budgets. On wholesale, you do. But I also feel that PR, so if we place a brand that we have on Goop, it's PR because it's great positioning. You know, I prefer to have my client on Goop than on, I don't know.
Specialty store that nobody really knows.
No, not even a store, no, I think on like Harper's. Love Harper's, but you know, I prefer, if you ask me, it's like, where do you want a client? Goop or Harper's? I want both, and we get both. But if you ask me, I prefer Goop, because the client can sell, you get connected to Gwyneth Paltrow, you know, and it's positioning. It's PR, but you also can sell. You know, the market is shifting a lot. So there's a lot of things. So that's something that we've been doing a lot, and we have to be very fast to see like all the former editors from Vogue, they're opening websites. They're opening e-commerce. We have so many, and they're very good, and they do job ship. So for me to be with my client, now Over the Moon, it's a good example. It's a very nice website. They are all former Vogue editors, so super cool girls. They have an amazing taste. And we put our clients there, it's great because it's positioned, because it's beautiful. So you get these girls we want, and people can sell. You know, so
combining, I think, our strategies, we feel adds a lot more value to our services, to our clients. A lot of the points Rafa made that I could add to, you know, reaching these audiences within the wholesale community and the wholesale audience, or customers that are buying from these retailers, right? They have databases, extensive databases of customers that receive, you know, their email marketings, or that shop frequently at these stores, you know? They tend to be even more loyal sometimes to buying from the wholesale channel than directly from the brands, because the wholesalers offer deals, right? Like the more you buy, you get points, they have loyalty rewards and programs, things as such. So sometimes a lot of clients prefer to buy from the wholesaler so they can start building that loyalty at the wholesale channel. So it's really important to reach these audiences, and sometimes the value is even greater than the value you might get in press. And to Rafa's point too, with press, it's a little bit harder to measure, right? The return on the investment, so to speak. The investment meaning the work that we put into securing a placement in press, and the sales that will drive you, you know? What exists now in the market, who has existed for a few years, that's something we're focusing a lot more now too, is the concept of affiliate, you know, marketing in general, and affiliate PR, which is a very interesting way of doing business now, where, you know, because PR is changing so much, and you see now editors are all becoming kind of like freelancers. It's really with the top pubs that you still have editors that are working at the magazines, at specific publications in full-time roles. You know, now they're kind of spreading around and becoming editors or contributing editors to multiple publications, because the magazines don't have budgets anymore to support full-time staff, you know, at all times. So the concept of affiliate brings a commercial aspect to the business, meaning magazines like Vogue and Harper's and Elle are now partnering directly with brands to have them featured on their websites, as well as with wholesalers to have them featured on their websites. When sales are driven there, when there's a conversion there, they pay a commission, either to the brand or they pay a commission to the wholesaler. You know, so being in the wholesale channel increases your chances of being featured in press a lot more than if you're not.
Oh, big time.
You know, like I think it's almost like editors are probably now selecting 90% of products that they're featuring. Think about like a product roundup story, right? The cutest swim for you to wear this summer. And they'll feature 20 different swim brands with beautiful, swim, actual true swim, or maybe cover-ups or resort wear. 90% of the product that's published there probably has a presence in wholesale channels, in prominent wholesale channels, with this affiliate partnership that then brings a commission on that sale to the wholesaler, and to the magazine, to the publication, and they need that revenue now, right? More than ever.
There's no more advertising, so
the advertising dollars have shrunken, like print media, like. Big brands, obviously really well-established global brands, are still buying media in these magazines, right? Full page and spreads, but much lesser than before, and the prices are a lot less expensive now for the brands to advertise.
Yeah, and I think doing PR nowadays is not only having the Amber Alert.
There's the NH guys.
So being a PR nowadays used to be back then, 15 years ago, you would do a press day, the editors come, all good. Now, no. Now it's like you have to know that, you have to be sold somewhere. There's so many touch points with the clients that you have to do it,
Yeah.
So I think, and again, like having the wholesale and PR under the same umbrella, it's working out.
Yeah.
I think it's working out. We don't do,
Sorry.
no, it's fine.
Your fault.
You're protecting us.
Keep us in check.
There's a missing child at 6. Sorry.
No problem. So one thing I always tell our clients, and from small clients, we have very small, we work with very small brands from, very niche brands from France, from everywhere in the world, to big companies like Audemars Piguet, Removal. It's a long-term plan. And I'm specifically talking about brands coming to the US in our New York office. It's a long-term plan. You have to have the money to invest. Put the money to invest and forget about this money because it's not gonna come fast. You need to at least 6 months to kind of, to introduce your brand. The market is saturated. Nobody, when I opened also my agency, New York didn't need another PR agency or, but it took time. It took a couple of years for me to, to have my sort of like my name and the reputation, and again, consistency and long term. Keep doing. You do a press breakfast, you do a lunch, you network, you go, of course, with the product on point, right? So the brand needs to keep doing it. Get a money for a 6-month period. You're being an agency, or you're traveling all the time to New York. Because it's very necessary, right?
And we've been very clear in setting expectations with every client now that reaches to us and wants to work with us from that perspective.
And we get a lot of people coming like, oh my God, I go on Intermix or the website, and the woman in the store, she loved my dress, and I make them. Of course, because she wants you to buy everything else. It's not because she loves. I'm sorry to say it, but that's the reality, right? I do the best. Nobody does better than. But
it takes time and effort, right? Like, you can activate a market for your collection or your brand for the first time, and you probably won't get any orders, in that initial first presentation. The feedback I've gotten with many brands we've shown for the first time is, this is beautiful, I love it, but I want to see how this evolves.
Yes.
Because it's the US market, they're very conservative here in a way, and they want to make sure that you're a brand that's going to endure and that's long lasting, and that your plans are and that you're here to stay.
Exactly.
They might love something once, but then what if you decide to fold next season, or for some reason you no longer exist, or you decide, they don't take you seriously until you have some time on the chair,
Totally.
And the consistency, the DNA needs to be there, it needs to be tight, it needs to be
We're working
aligned.
with a client now. She's a very, very established a brand in Mexico. She wants to come to New York, and that's a problem that Mexico and Brazil has. We're too big, so we kind of not ready. We don't really care for like. We care, but we don't. It's just like the market, the internal market is so big, and when you talk with Colombians and Venezuelans, you kind of have to right? Export. Otherwise, your market is too small.
For you to really scale, then you have to internationalize.
Exactly.
In Brazil or Mexico alone,
it's like
you can already make so much
happening there, you know?
revenue and like make such a huge business locally that you
Yeah.
might not even be interested in internationalizing. But I think when it comes to the other Latin
Yes,
American,
and when you're in New York, especially New York, it's the level of everything goes up. You know, the level of the imagery, prices, everything. So also I tell my clients that let's try to use local New York, not local talents. You know, you do a photo shoot in New York because it's New York level. You know, it is different than what we use. At least I'm talking about São Paulo. Okay, when you do something in New York, it's much more expensive. You know, and people come and say, oh, it's so expensive. It's in dollars. You know, it's like, oh, you know, my currency. We get this a lot. Oh, but you know, in dollars it's 10 times. But you have to invest, you know, and again, it's long term. It's not gonna come back soon. We get people come, oh, I did a trade show. I know. Trade shows, it's like if you just go with a booth, with a trade show, forget, you're not gonna get orders because it's like hundreds, if not thousands. We went to Coterie, which is this very important trade show that happens it's a very important trade show, but if you don't have a relationship, we have a client in St. She does bags, beautiful bags. She's been around for 30 years. She does Coterie, I think, for the past like 20 years. So she goes, she has the appointments, you know, but she's been building these relationships and consistently delivering collections. Yes, sometimes it's here, sometimes because it's you know, it's fashion, but she's been for 20 years. So she's there, she has but some people, you know, like, they just don't get not even a visit on their booth.
No.
But you know, so I think it's very important networking. You know, test the market. You know, I keep saying this word consistency because it's so important.
Yeah.
You know, we represent Silvia Gerazzi, the Colombian designer. She's been around for 30 years. Silvia, if you see it, she has the DNA. She has the consistency. Every 3 months, we're doing something for them in New York. It's a breakfast, it's a press event, it's something at Bergdorf, you know, and she's an established brand, but she knows exactly that you need to keep poking people. You need to like, hey, I'm here, this is the new collection, this is the celebrity that is wearing, I'm in Bergdorf, I'm in Saks, I'm gonna do this, I'm opening Punta Mita, you know, it's on in country, it's non-stop.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an option, right? You have to do it. And every brand does things all the time. So it is something that I, as an agency, because as an agency, we want to make sure that the client's also ready for that. Because like, the sky is the limit for us. You know, we work with Alexandre. Last week we were in Paris, doing a major presentation at the Ritz. Yes, he has a huge budget. But even if you don't have a budget, you can do a collaboration, you can split with other brands, you can participate at labs, there's the market here. You don't need to have crazy amount of budget, you know, just have to be creative and do it, and show up, and come to New York, and do a breakfast, you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
little baby steps and you'll get there.
Yeah.
And Alex worked years and years, Berman, to get to where he is.
Exactly,
You know?
even though with all this,
Like he started to internationalize over 15 years ago, and then slowly started opening all the point of sales. There was also a magic moment where he developed the Clarita sandal with the bow that became a very strong DNA piece of his or design of his that now he's evolving in different evolutions, you know, from flats to, you know, thicker heels and higher heels, and all with the Clarita concept, because women fell in love with that design, with that concept of a shoe, and they keep buying it over and over, and he brings in that newness, you know, so.
But then he opens a store about Harbor, you know, and again, you don't need to have a store about Harbor to succeed or anything, but the concept of what I'm saying is that keep doing stuff, you know, keep contacting, keep connecting, keep, you know, collections to be on point. It's, you know, it's.
And like touching on the affiliate aspect of the business that I was explaining a little bit earlier, when we are pitching Berman to press, because we don't do wholesale for Berman, he does that in-house. He's huge now, you know, he has global accounts, over 80 accounts all over the world, you know, so the operation he brought in-house, because it's too big for almost like an agency to manage for him, it made more sense to bring it in-house. When we are pitching to press, we list all of the retailers where they're in, because then, you know, Harper's, Vogue, etc. will be like, oh, okay, we're affiliated with Neiman Marcus, we're affiliated with Saks, we're affiliated with Nordstrom. And then they'll feel even more enticed to, again, publish the shoe in that digital story. You know, I think with print, you get a little bit more leeway. You always get the credit on print on where to shop. But us also having the knowledge of Alex's wholesale presence, which we do, we integrate with his wholesale team. We understand what his wholesale strategies are, even though we're not working on that ourselves.
Sometimes they ask us, and also happens with Circuit, for example, the wholesale team comes and Rafa, we need to push this because Bloomingdale bought like thousands of this, so
Yeah.
we help pushing it.
Yeah.
You know,
Or like an editor reaches us and said, I want to feature this bag. So we go and we speak to the wholesale team. Where is this bag offered? It's at Nordstrom, Saks, and Neiman Marcus. And then we speak to the seller, to her commercial agent. She said, oh, I'm not performing that well on Neiman Marcus with this bag. I need a better sell-through. So why don't we credit Neiman Marcus in the press feature? You know, so that it drives sales to Neiman Marcus. So it's about thinking about these things.
and then you send
ahead
a
of
mail
time.
to the buyer. Hey, I
got this
credit
feature for
to
you.
us.
Exactly.
They like it. They like to see, so it's sort of like you're helping them, also help me to help you. You know, it's kind of full circle.
And the reason why we love so much representing our clients for both PR and sales is that we get to communicate that directly to our buyers too. You know, an example is like Adriana de Greas. So we work with Adriana de Greas. It's a beautiful banque couture. It's like what she considers herself. Brand from Brazil, amazing swimwear and resort, where she actually has a store in here in Coral Gables in Miami.
Village of Merrick Park.
Yeah, and we received the opportunity to feature one of her dresses on Revolve, because she sells on Revolve. And there was an email marketing feature, followed by a website feature that immediately sold out the dress. It's something that they selected editorially, internally, because they have the editorial teams with the buying teams. You know, that's part of like the marketing teams also in the wholesalers, which is another topic I'll touch on too. Which is we have to be very close to the marketing teams at the wholesale channel, you know, to really nurture those relationships. Because I think what a lot of like traditional showrooms do is they're just there kind of writing orders, you know, but then there's no follow-up. It's like you can't just, you know, it's great that you launched in this major retailer, but what are you going to do now? You have to sell that stock, you know, and you should be helping your retailer sell the stock. You can't just rely on them to do all that work for you, because they have hundreds of brands they have to focus on, and they can't feature all of them in their marketing initiatives, right? So, you know, trying to really form a relationship with the marketing teams at the retail level is super important. Like as important as it is to form relationships with editors, you know, that's obviously extremely important for us also from a PR perspective. But my job is really getting to know that marketing director or the marketing manager at the wholesale, at Nordstrom, at Neiman Marcus, so I can really collaborate with her to strategize marketing initiatives to support my brand in their channels. Whether it's email, whether it's social, whether it's
It's a dinner, let's say, my Suiza dinner by, you know.
Yeah. Like let's activate an event and bring Adriana to LA and do a Revolve dinner with influencers, with the designers,
Super
you know? Yeah, and they don't say yes immediately,
No,
because they have like Dior that's willing to also pay them $20,000 to do this dinner.
That's
you
something I
know?
always say too. We are competing, so let's say that's a Harper Bazaar or Vogue editor, she comes to our showroom and see our brands. After us, she's going to Cartier. You know, that same woman, we're competing like the attention or the man, or, you know, we're competing with this woman who, with all the other brands, like these big brands with a lot of budgets, you know. But, you know, again, that doesn't stop us.
Yeah.
It just makes us want more and do better, you know.
Another great example, we no longer work with Porter Bra, that's a Venezuelan brand at Athleisure. She's actually a finalist here at Labs, Clarice Gagna, who's a dear friend of ours. They are now taking their wholesale operation in-house, but we helped her launch in all of the major retailers over the course of the past year and a half. Everyone you can imagine, and very successful launches where we very carefully strategize the launch strategy with every retailer that gave us an amazing exposure, you know, to the industry. I think just from this work, her brand is probably evaluated now by like double of what it was like a year and a half ago, because she's in all these point
One
of
thing to
sales.
mention, for example, and I had nothing to do with this, it was him, but Saks, okay, great, I'm selling at Saks. They put X amount of dollars of orders, perfect. The size of the contract that comes, it's this thick. To have really 6 pieces there on a rack of Saks Fifth Avenue, and then you add on your Instagram. sacks,
Yeah.
sold at sacks.
The amount
The
of
amount of work,
guys.
guys, it's like,
No, it's
he's a burger,
real.
so I am just like, I'm posting on Instagram and because he's a burger, it's very like, you know, he reads that. It's no
Yeah, it's
joke.
what they call the vendor manual. Like
And
you
you
get
have-
that. It's an
yeah.
80-page PDF with the rules of how it's the logistics rules. They have systems where you have
It's
to
not,
sign
it's
up.
not like rules like how to enter your
No,
I don't
it's
know,
like, it's an
that's-
archaic system from like the 80s probably, when the internet started.
No, it's insane.
Where you have to go in there,
and then you
register.
view them. And then, okay, bill, let's say, this is not the case of Porter Brad, this is something else, but then you bill $30,000 because that was the order you delivered. Guess what? They don't pay on time. Oh, but it's America and they said they're gonna pay 30 days. And then what? You're gonna fight with the buyer that placed the first order, and then you wait, and then it's like 45 days, and then you don't want to get in a position, and then what? You're gonna, I'm gonna sue Saks Fifth Avenue for $30,000.
Yeah,
I'm not,
you don't want to fight that fight.
right? And they know the power that they have, you know.
Yeah.
So it's you know, there's a lot. It's
There's a lot of
great.
risk involved.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk. That's why I say it's a long term, and it can, you know, there's the pros and cons. It's beautiful when you go inside a Bloomingdale's or Bergdorf and you see your client or your brand there. It makes you want to cry because you know it is an achievement and
It's
it's
a dream come true. for
right.
many.
Yeah, but there's so many. That's when PR is easier because the PR you go, you build the relationship, and then you're not touching anyone's budgets, as I said. You're not, taking the space of other brand. Because if you are in the store, you're taking another brand that probably sells, right? I don't know if you're bikini or whatever. You take another brand and they put in you.
Mhm.
That's a big deal. It's they see everything as real estate, especially in New York. And then there's another point that is like, okay, why do you want to start in New York? Yes, New York is a thing, but maybe go to Texas, go to LA.
Yeah.
And that's something that we advise a lot, or we talk a lot. Why do you want to be in New York? Everyone, so,
Yeah.
tranquilo.
I have a question. I have two. How many are in your team, and how do you charge? Like a fixed rate or?
So Azzi+Co, Azzi is my last name, and Co is always like collaboration, cooperation, coexistent, anything. Yeah, company.
We can't do it all alone, right, guys? We need
cannot
collaborators.
collaborate, so
It's a small
exactly.
industry.
And
and we need-
especially nowadays that we can always nobody really wants to work full time. And so we're always, so for example, I have a jewelry director in the team. She lives in Colombia. She was the jewelry buyer for Moda, Luisa. And she is in Colombia. Roberta, sí.
She's over there.
So she's our
working with us
Love.
now.
Yes, she's our jewelry director now, and then she only takes care of jewelry. She's not full time. Yeah, she only takes care of jewelry, new business. She makes the wholesales for her clients. So we have around 3 people like that, like external, and then in the office in New York, 11 people.
11.
Yeah, and then we have 10 in Brazil. And then we did a joint venture in Mexico also with Abelardo Marcondes, but they're on in-house. And how we charge. So we don't like to work by projects. Why? Because I'm gonna repeat, long-term consistency. If I do one project, forget it. It's not worth it because it takes time for us to introduce a brand. If it's PR, if it's wholesale, whatever, it takes 2-3 months. And then we do the event. What happens is the person comes to the event. She's not gonna do or buy right there. They're gonna go back, their life continues, right? We all think that, it's my brand. Your life continues. Maybe in 3 months, they say, remember that brand, and they do come back.
Mhm.
And it's very frustrating for us. Because
I think we learned that the hard way.
Totally. It's
We
like,
did it,
why did
and we're
that?
like, no, this doesn't make sense.
Yes, because our job is like little by every day I'm talking to someone. So I bring my clients, if I'm here, I'm talking about Sepui, I'm talking about Adriana, I'm talking about Birman, I'm talking about, Olympia Letin. It's part of our conversations. And as PRs, right, we're constantly seeking opportunities for all of our clients. So if it's a project, So we do charge by month, and the contract is minimum 8 months.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I did, because I said, when we opened, it's like, oh, I don't want to, if it's not working for me, yeah, 3 months. But then, exactly what happened. 3 months, finish the contract, and then 6 months. Remember that brand?
And the results start coming in.
It's a menstrual fee.
Sorry?
It's a menstrual fee.
We charge monthly fees for both
Yeah.
services,
And then
because- and then a commission on the sales.
Yes.
And the fees vary, ladies, because it depends on the scope of the work, you know? We
And the
discussed
size
in
of the
detail
brand.
with the clients, what are your needs? Every brand has a different story, they're in a different stage, so we discuss that personally with every single scope and
Yeah.
define the fee based on that. It's not like we have a rate card, the PR fee is this, the wholesale fee is that. It depends on the TA. If a client comes to us in wholesale that already has 10 accounts and they want us to manage the accounts,
Which happens a lot.
which happens, that's going to
Then
take
we
a
charge
lot
a
more work
fee.
than if it's just one account. So the fee needs to increase, or we negotiate in the commission, it depends, and we need to evaluate a case-by-case basis.
Excuse me, the commission fee for each sale or for?
For every order or purchase order that comes in that's managed by the agency, that we manage, that we obtain from the buyer.
Yeah, but it's wholesale. We don't do direct to consumer clients. Unless it's jewelry and we're involved.
Wholesale in the big stores.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. But if it's fine jewelry, we have a personal network, a strong personal, like women who love jewelry. So then we connect our brands to
True.
trend shows.
We do like direct clienteling, but
Yes.
more for the high-end jewelry,
Yeah.
very
So for
expensive
example,
item that
we
we
work
sell
with-
direct to clients, and then we make a commission off that.
Yeah, with Erin Lauder, so her store in the Hamptons, we do trunk shows with them, and that's like a direct.
Yeah.
It's a trunk show.
Yeah.
So if, for example, I have a jewelry.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And I know Lisa. If I want to contact you, I contact Lisa, I contact you, or what?
We're in touch already.
Give you our card.
Oh, we can be through Louisa. We talk. What's her name?
Sonia Hebron, Boilas Oficial.
Okay, pues go ahead. There's a.
Sorry, I have a question. Because, well, I've been following you and what you're doing with your work. I saw you did with Clarissa and other few brands. How's been the experience? I know it's like this, not has to do a lot with fashion, but it's been some size of the brands that you work with. How's been the experience of working with Fasano? That it used to be like something like super local, that it was like in Sao Paulo and then they moved to Rio, and it's like super luxury. And how's been that experience of trying to transmit the spirit of Brazil in a whole completely different city like New York City and their spirit? How's been the experience?
¿Cómo te llamas?
Daniela.
Nadia o Daniela?
Daniela.
Daniela.
¿Cómo
Daniela,
que?
Dani, sí, ok.
Dani.
So you brought another category that
Yes,
we work with,
because-
right? So we
yes.
can talk about that a little bit.
So that's this is very much like what I personally was brought on to New York to do, to bring a jewelry company from Brazil to New York. I learned doing it, I had to be very, very creative. So in the case of Fasano, so for the ones who didn't know, our agency, we do fashion, jewelry, hospitality. Yeah, but then the fashion and the jewelry, it's kind of like accessories, and then the hospitality part of it. So then we also represent hotels. But that's fully PR. And Fasano is a very, very important hotel brand in Brazil, and they just opened a restaurant and a hotel in New York. Very competitive market too. The brand has a very strong DNA. So they literally just brought what they are in Brazil. They adapt a couple of things in New York. They hired a very famous local interior designers. It's called Thierry Despont. So the property is another level, and that goes to my point of like hiring the local meaning from New York talents, because the level it's another level. People love it. People love newness in New York. As long as they are very, very good quality, people are open to it.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think for this more affluent community, which the Fasano caters to, I feel like they're familiar with the Fasano group. They've traveled to Punta del Este or to Brazil or visited one of the properties. a lot more opportunity to reach a wider audience from that regard, and that's our job now. And we have been bringing a lot of great people locally from New York to experience the Fasano group that will start kind of spreading the word about their
And
existence.
then we connect our clients. So for example, Silvia Gerassi does her press days. Her last 4 press days we did at the Fasano.
Which was
So
stunning.
it's win-win for everyone. We get the press there, the Fasano is happy because we're bringing great people and a client. Silvia is happy because we got her a good discount. Because, so it's that's the PR mentality. You're always,
And what better way to form relationships than on the lunch or dinner table,
Yes.
right? So the Fasano offers that for us. Obviously, we only bring people that are strategically relevant for the Fasano group too. So it's a win-win for everyone, like Rafa said. So we feel very lucky to have them on board now.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. It's been a little frustrating because I see now it's downhill because it's longer than I thought. I knew it already. So I wanted to tell you, you talk about so much about affiliate, that in Peru, we're from Peru. I have an accessories brand there, 9 years, so I feel old. But everything is so new, and COVID really flipped everything, and it made it, and for me, now it's more interesting, because I worked like opening a door of a store, closing, very operative, and it was 8 stores, and the programs were so...
Wholesalers or your own
No,
store?
Physical retail, your own.
You
Yes.
had it?
Wow, 8 stores.
But it was boring, really, and the programs were like, the light is out, and the pizza doesn't, work, and I was frustrated. And then COVID hit, and because in Peru nobody wanted to do online, okay? They hated it. So now everyone's going online, and now you can do a strategy, now you can do imagery, now you can do, because you have a budget, and you can do a collection, and so it's more interesting. But we do not have affiliate, nothing. So
In Brazil we don't do it.
okay.
I wish.
So dumb.
And I feel, they might, but I don't think they do. No.
Because
There's
also-
no commissionable links, like
Exactly.
trackable links in Brazil.
But
yet.
that's the
That's
thing.
so-
But this is the rule in New York.
No, in the
They
US.
enter, they send emails like, one clients are you on
Affiliate.
That's it.
That's
Like, bah.
the king, right?
Yeah.
So,
And just to add to that, affiliate as a strategy is also very present in the US with influencers.
Exactly.
The personalized coupon
Exactly.
codes, the like it to know it platform LTK. That's major now here too.
That's how they pay for the kids' school, like just with
Yes.
an affiliate.
Totally.
Yes.
So we're still in the era of stones with that. So I was trying to go back to basics and really do something interesting maybe with my database, because I
You
find
probably built an extensive one over the 8 years that
yes,
you've had the
it's
brand,
big,
right?
but I don't
Do you
want to
deliver to the US? Because I
No.
learned today or yesterday, because I met the girl from Escudo.
Yes, she's my friend.
Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic,
she was
yeah.
already here.
She's
And
fantastic, and I learned that there's a treaty between Peru and the United States.
Yes.
No taxes.
Really?
My God, if this
There's no tariffs.
Okay.
There's no like sale, right?
No, yeah.
Just as I said.
What is that?
It's another kind
Tariff?
of
Duties, the tariffs.
Okay. But it makes it
So you
easier.
only have to pay for shipping then?
Yes, Colombia, yes.
Just shipping.
And the tax.
Brazil's a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. With every country, there's a different agreement. Like I'm now looking into bringing or shipping Adriana de Greas to a store in Costa Rica, and we're looking into with our trade company to understand what the trade agreement is between Costa Rica and Brazil.
Because it's tricky, because it all depends where is it made, where the thread is
That's the
made.
country of origin.
Or where it's assembled. It's a whole part of this thing, very operational part that you have to like.
We had an issue with Port de Gras shipping from Venezuela to the US, where we were learning as we went, right? And we had to declare those harmonized tariff codes that were specific to the amount of fabric that she develops the Port de Gras activewear. And we submitted the incorrect codes, and the tariffs were exorbitant. But then we did our research and discovered that the tariff code for that specific fabric was different. So we disputed the tariff, and she got a refund. She got the money back. But you have to be so careful, like we were saying earlier.
This is the unsexy
Like you
part.
have to like research the tariff code for that fabric, and if you don't declare it correctly.
10% sexy, 90% non-sexy.
Oh, absolutely. We think it's so glamorous. No, it's just
No, so you have to have the glamorous part. You have to bring the buyer for lunch,
For a glamorous
dinner,
moment.
and but the next day at 8 a.m. she wants to see the line sheets, the lookbooks, the imagery, all the time. So again, you have to be 360.
And I have a question. You being in Brazil and in the US, always thinking on going international. Never you think on Brazil is such a huge market. I personally produce in Brazil, and I know they promote national brands. They
Yes,
really
very much.
support brands. So for a brand that produces in Brazil, but I don't know presence in Brazil, is there an opportunity there or not really?
Como te llamas?
Adriana, we spoke at the wedding.
Ah, yeah, I was spoken there, Adriana. But not sorry. It's
No
just,
worry, I know we've never seen each other.
No,
in
but we
person.
saw at the party.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Well, these shoes is
Yeah.
complicated in Brazil because it's, we have a there's Birman, we have a, we have a very strong local
Correct.
brands. That doesn't make it any possible, it just makes it more hard. The problem with Brazil is that when you import something, even from Colombia, it's a nightmare. So Chelsea was going to do a trunk show there, because I hate to say that, and it makes me, sad. It's my country, but
But if the stock is there, I never take it out of there, it's already there.
that can be. The thing is, I don't know if I don't know, but I think it's reality. But I don't know how that will work.
They're doing import to Brazil, the duty are exorbitant. Export too, it's not easy. Not just with fashion, but also like with skincare, for example. Their food and drug, the equivalent of the Food and Drug Administration, super strict. It can take like a year and a half for one SKU to get approved. Or if you want to import food, it can take 2 years also for the supplier to be approved,
Yeah.
it's not easy.
Yeah, but it's rewarding. I think the market is open for newness. It's just not easy, and you have to keep doing. You can start with smaller boutiques. They're very cool boutiques, very hard to get in though. Like if you are high luxury, the Websters of the world, they're fantastic. But they used to be more. I don't know, supportive, but they used to. Invest more in smaller designers or young designers. I think now they're more on the big ones, because it's just easier. They know if they sell Chanel, they're gonna sell. If it's Celine, they're gonna, why they're gonna carry eventually one or two designers. But Moda also used to carry much more new designers. But then it's a matter of like, okay, they're competing with the big, e-commerce.
And I think a lot of them say they do, but in reality they don't. It's more of like a speech.
Because it's a bet, right? They don't
Yeah.
know, the people don't know the brand, if it's gonna sell or not. So they need to.
And then especially with the pandemic, I think they really honed in on the designer brands, because that's where the revenue was, low
If
risk.
you're gonna buy a bag from Valentino that costs $1,500, or a brand that you never heard that it costs $1,000, that it's hand-woven by artisans in Peru,
Yeah.
there when you're at the checkout, like,
What are your requirements to work with a brand or like to start working with them? Like, do you have like a checklist or something?
I talk to everyone. I have a lot of people that reached out to me, thankfully, because I think that shows that, the work is being recognized. I talk to everyone. Sometimes we have exclusive agreements. Juliana, she uses a fellow Brazilian, she has a great shoe brand. We cannot work because we have exclusive with Birman. But I'm always talking, and then sometimes I just say, like, listen, I don't think it's the right time, or it's a conversation, I think I also like to see, and that's something I also learned, doing how prepared the brand is financially, it doesn't need to have millions of dollars, would be great if so, but it's never happened, but I want to make sure that because I also don't want to, break anyone's. I don't want to get involved in this, but I want to make sure that the person knows that it takes time. It takes time. Even if you get the order tomorrow, the buyer loves. Oh my God, I'm gonna place the order. The payment is gonna take a while to get. Even if you get the order the second day, which is not gonna happen. And so I want to make sure that the brand is, it's ready. It doesn't need to be 100% because part of our job also is to make sure that we are part of the,
And most of the brands we work with too are privately owned. They don't have investors. We don't even want investors potentially, so they don't want to answer to anyone. But sometimes you need the money to be able to grow. So it's challenging, but you have to have somebody.
Sometimes one thing that we do, we always, if there's something that we don't do internally, say, listen, you need help. We think that you need help in products.
Yeah.
We are not, but we don't know if, this is too short, this is too big. We are a step after that. You come with the collection more or less prepared.
Yeah.
We can help edit, but I don't, we don't know, that part. There's no way we can, it's too much.
To answer your question, there are a few things we evaluate. We like to ask for samples always. We want to touch and feel the product.
Yes.
Like Rafa said, we're not product experts, we're not designers, But I think we have a keen eye to have a kind of understanding of what's beautiful or not, or what we think would perform well or not. But that's our own kind of opinion, personal opinion.
Because we need to buy it also, because otherwise,
we need to personally love it too, so that we feel motivated. It's when you personally like it, you do the work differently. You sell it differently. You speak about it differently. You believe in it. If you truly, genuinely believe in it, and people are gonna feel that you're speaking about it with true, that it's genuine.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Right.
So I have a question about wholesale. How we do the markup for the retailers and the commission for the wholesale agency?
Okay, so good question. Different department stores have different margins that they need to abide by. That's defined by them. In my mind, the kind of general markup is 2.3 to 2.4. That's the standard. But sometimes they might ask you for a 10% discount or an 8% discount or sometimes even a 12% discount on top of that to make up for their department margin. So keep that in mind.
10 to 20?
8 to 12% if you have a 2.3, 2.4 markup, okay? And this is more for the major department stores. And you might be willing to accept that offer because they're buying it in massive quantities. So it'll make up for you in the end. When you do the math on the overall order and the revenue you're getting, you'll still make a profit. Or not. However, like we were saying earlier, there is so much value in the brand being present at the wholesaler, From a marketing perspective, from an exposure perspective, like we were saying, from a stamp of approval perspective, It's like, wow, Neiman Marcus bought these guys. They must have something good, So there's value in that too. That's not a monetary value.
Totally, you get
but you'll see that down the road.
Endorsement, totally.
Recognition, endorsement. Other retailers see that you're there. They'll be like, I'll buy too. I like that they're there. Like look-alike stores. So.
And your commission is what?
It depends on if it's jewelry, it's lower because the price point of the
higher.
If it's shoes, it can be 10 to 12%. It really depends. Also depends.
It goes up to 15%.
Yeah.
Okay, we wouldn't go beyond that because we understand that you have margins to also abide by, and that like reported abroad, there were situations where a specific retailer asked for a specific discount, and we lowered the commission for them for that because they were very transparent with us about the return, about how that was affecting the return from them. So we understand that. So we work with you to we all want to make money, We don't want to take all the. It's not about give us all the commission, It's about us being happy with the number that works for everyone.
How do you assure, because that might happen, that they start working with you, imagine Puente Ramos, and you start charging them 10%, and they're already in Nordstrom's or in Bloomingdale's, and then after 2 or 3 orders, they say no more, but you already opened it.
No more to us. So we have a contract and that's perfectly fine because it's a commercial agreement. We part ways. Sometimes we also don't want to work with a brand that we already opened doors. Learned also the hard way. There's a contract that we say after the, I think 6 or 8 months after the doors are reopened, we still get the commission.
Yeah. If we manage the orders, if we were there in market, presenting the collection, receiving the PO, we deserve the commission because we did the work.
Yeah.
You know?
So then we
Regardless if she delivered, because yes, we present market, 4 months in advance of the delivery, right? Even more, sometimes 6 months, depending on the season. So if they cancel the contract, say, and we just close the order, but she's not delivering until 6 months, and she's not getting paid until 7 months, we're still going to get the commission from that 7 months.
But anyway, you already made the contract, so if they still selling them,
Mm-hmm.
you don't get the commission afterwards?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
If you end the contract, if they end the contract with you,
Mhm.
you already made the
I got the PO, the purchase order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But afterwards, next year, they don't contract you?
6 months after, we
They
usually put
continue,
6
they
months.
continue working.
selling.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then-
they'll continue
and it's
selling,
like-
and then they'll be working directly with the buyer. We are out of the picture.
Yeah.
We're not going to spend any more
Or
time.
with the new showroom, we just
Or a new
signed the
showroom.
Galea's sales. She had already
Showroom for 10 years.
For
right
10
before
years,
us.
it comes to us. Azzi is now handling the sales, and life goes on.
But she's charging commissions from the Galea's for
From the-
order, for
yes.
like the spring summer
Because
that
it's
they
in
sold in
contract, yes.
September last year. That's delivering now, right? They're getting paid for that, but they haven't been working with the brand for 3 months. But she's going to charge the commission because they made that sale. It's not us. We're getting commission now on resort that we're presenting in June, July, and then the high summer that I presented through December and January. Which, by the way, the wholesale calendar too, with the pandemic, and it's a little mushed. It used to be very defined dates. Market is on this week, 3 days. Now market extends for 2 months. Like I feel like I'm always in market now.
I wanted to ask you about that, a little bit more about the fashion calendar specifically. I mean,
Yeah.
how flexible are you with smaller brands that had to rise away from COVID and
Yeah.
really try to do whatever? I mean, I'm still suffering from COVID, the lack of raw
And
resources,
supply
right?
chain, we're dealing with that.
So, I
We're
mean,
We're
dealing
flexible,
with that.
but the market is not.
Yeah.
I mean, my question is,
No, I'll tell you. Like, we dealt with a lot of delivery delays with Port de Bras. Completely beyond the brand's control. It was a supplier issue. Actually, from Brazil was her supplier, an amazing fabric supplier in Brazil. But they didn't have the raw material. They couldn't deliver the fabric for her to make this 1,000-unit order for Neiman Marcus. I'm just throwing a number out there, okay? So we had to, then my job was to email the buyer and explain the drama, It's a pandemic, like supply chain, please, can you extend the cancel date? I can't deliver to you because you'll be penalized. On that vendor manual that Rafael was talking about, the 80-page, if you deliver something with the wrong ticket, $150 penalty. If you don't put the sticker on the box on the left up corner, if you put it on the right, on the box, $200 penalty.
But
you have to
let me
be
defend the
so
retailer. They have thousands and thousands and
of
thousands of brands.
receivables. Yeah.
So imagine if they're not strict like that.
It's only for them to
and
stay
brands
organized.
from all over the world, they have to do like that.
And also, I have another question. I have my own company in Mexico, in which I produce in China and in many parts of the world, and I supply to the chain stores in Mexico. So I know a little bit about what you're saying. But mainly, one of the main problems, at least in Mexico, is once you deliver the merchandise to the retail stores, what happens is that they do not exit. Sometimes it's hidden in their own a little.
You mean they push it in the back?
Or they put
You
it
get
in
like
the-
forgotten.
That's a relationship you have with
You
the,
need to have a relationship with the store.
and go and
You have to
visit
go
the
to
store.
You need to go
Here,
visit.
my question to you is, in your company, do you do that work as well?
Yes.
Well, we do as much as we can. For example,
Yeah.
LA is going to LA.
Yeah, I'm going to LA next week to visit Elise Walker because I'm not happy with how they're presenting one of my brand's products there, and I'm going to go there and.
But
Try, in fact, do it very kindly.
I'm not going to do this. No.
Yes, please.
Yes.
It's tough. I'll tell you. I'll tell you.
I have a question. When you say the quantities that, for example, you you go and you do the big leap and you enter to these amazing retailers. How, because I don't know what the volume they will ask, so I don't know.
Hard to predict.
Yeah, but around what, so I can know
Depends
like
on
where
what kind of clothing.
women's wear.
Like ready to wear.
Yeah, ready, like elevated ready to wear.
Tough.
I think we had an example of a brand that the buyers were dying for. That's it. Everything I said or Alex said is not valid. Because if the buyers really want it, they're gonna move mountains to it. They're gonna reach out via Instagram. They're gonna reach out. I had a buyer reaching out to me. She used to follow me on Instagram, but just like super professionally. She sent me a message on Sunday night that Americans are very formal. They wouldn't. It's not like, again, we're not casual. She said, remember? She sent me a message like, I want to make sure that we have exclusivity for this brand. We need to order tomorrow. It's like, wow. I was.
When they wanted.
Yeah, when they wanted, and we had this brand, and it was insane. They really wanted it, but they also took a little while for them to get paid at this brand.
Yeah. And to your point, I think it depends on price too.
Yeah, what I mean is like, if I'm gonna approach you, it's because I know I'm ready and I could deliver whatever
You can produce in higher quantities. You can deliver on time.
Last night I saw yesterday with your Ortiz. Yeah, I don't know if you saw it, but she says like, oh, they got like thousands and thousands of orders at Moda. And then she's like, okay, can you do it? Do it. It's kind of like grow with the
whatever
until you prepare. And it's also there's this scarcity thing. Like if you are ready to wear luxury, listen, I can only deliver 50. And
I think it also varies. Like I've had experiences where the retailer first wanted to buy a smaller assortment and lesser quantities to test online.
Yes.
And then, depending on performance, they bring it to the doors. And then I've had retailers that bought for online and 15 doors all at once. Because they believe that the brand resonates with its stores in all the different regions in the US. It varies.
Okay.
But a minimal, I would say, for an online, just like throwing it out there for you, I would say like 20 units of one unique style and up to 40 for like an opening for online only. Because they won't buy too much into depth, I believe, for a test in an initial phase.
One question. I remember with Clarissa seeing For the Bra in a bunch of influencers at once. I remember when this last year, when that launch, or the 2020 that launch, was in every influencer, and seeing right after the launch on all of these major retailers. Did you feel that you had to launch with influencers first and then place them in the retailers? Did you do it simultaneously?
I think we weren't involved in Clarissa's work initially. She had 4 years of a DTC business before we came into the picture. And I think that work was empirical for her to get where she is now. She had a very strategic influencer strategy. She was actually selling clothes through influencers in Latin America. The influencers would sell through DMs to local clients in the different Latin American countries, and the influencers would make commission. But she did it in a very intelligent way, where she wasn't using like coupon codes. It was very one-to-one selling, where Claudia went and built relationships one by one with these girls. Obviously, they loved the brand, right? So, like I was saying before, if you love the product, you sell it, or you sell it easily, right? It happens organically. And I think through that work is how she got the attention that she did, amongst many other. I feel like Pour de Bras checked so many boxes, from Clarissa herself, from the influencers she worked with very specifically and targetedly, the sustainability story, the Amana biodegradable fabric, the ballet nostalgia inspiration, the storytelling, which is another point we didn't even touch on too much today, but in terms of the integrated strategies and what your brand needs to start, we feel, is a very strong DNA and really, really concise and strong storytelling. In terms of the words that you use to describe who you are, it's so important. Because that's how you break through the clutter, there's so much competition out there.
I'm sorry, which brand are you talking about?
Pour de Bras. Pour de Bras.
I'm sorry for that. Again, the other time wasn't the question. We didn't get to the question. I'm more of a commercial brand, so it's about the DNA, the storytelling, and sometimes I find myself on the pitching moment, because I was in Endeavor and I went to New York, and that moment, it's like they expect very high-end, luxury, and I am not a high-end luxury brand. I don't want to be, and I'm super happy being the cheerful, with a normal price point. So I'm trying now to go out, and I do not want to go to New York or LA, maybe Texas, Dallas, even Ecuador, Bolivia. They're right around the corner, and they're very similar to me. So I'm trying to have a roadmap just to do those. For example, Dallas, should I just fly there and go around? Oh, should I do magic? Should I do, because Coterie, I've been a buyer of Coterie, 8 years.
You see,
and when I walk, I don't even see people. It's so weird, But then I am not even close to the price point I need to be, but I don't want to be expensive because I have a good enough margin and I want to stay, So
if I were you, I would work with an agent, a sales agent in the US.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yes, a sales agent. I don't know, but
because your strategy is a little bit different. We tend to focus more on luxury retailers. We don't have relationships with more like mass market, but there are many, Think about the luxury department stores, and then think about the mass market department stores in the US. Think about Kohl's, HBC.
But even, for example, Shopball.
Yes.
They do, my factory is better, I know that, and I even want to teach them, I can make what your data sells, I can make it. Even go that way, instead of being I'm a designer, this is, But I don't have that, so I'm always struggling, should I do the magic or maybe this way, because it's more interesting to go and tell, I have the ability, 10 years, I already know what's the factory, and I can help you, instead of you just having different designers very,
So there's an opportunity for also private label development, you're saying, right? Interesting.
But I think that where you can find the sales agent is maybe going to the trade shows.
Okay.
Not Corey, but maybe Magic.
I think Magic for an accessory type product that you're mentioning, I think is more appropriate.
Yeah, and then network, because from one meets the other.
But then I should do the booth, right? So the other end.
Yeah. And does your local country, do they offer subsidies for participation in shows? Because this is something very interesting, that a lot of the Brazilian brands that are able to present internationally is because they have the subsidy. Especially as you know with the currency exchange now, at least Brazil US dollar, it's insane. So the subsidy allows them to, because at least, they cover up to 80% of the trade show investment. So you only pay out of pocket 20%. That makes it a lot more feasible. It takes time sometimes to apply for these programs, so the sooner the better.
One thing that we're gonna do, that's something that, this is brand new, so Azzi+Co is also Azzi course. So we're gonna come up, and this is, follow us on Instagram, Azzi+Co, because stuff that we're doing here, we're gonna come up with some kind of, I don't know how yet, but kind of listen, it's sort of a consultancy, it's kind of a course, so you want to introduce us, what do you do, what are the steps, and something very catered. That's a new thing that we can, and also connecting people, but
more advice sessions, where we really, you could even send us a brief about your brand, we can take some time to prepare something for you, and then we speak and we give you the advice, and then you can go off and execute. Rather than being engaged with us, because we understand for a lot of, especially in Latin American brands and the currency exchange, it is prohibitive sometimes, right? In US dollars, to operate in US dollars without having revenue in US dollars. So we understand the challenge.
But it's good when it comes, the revenues, but you need to invest.
Thank you.
Well, any more questions?
I want to ask you, we have an active wear brand in Mexico, and we sell at department stores there. And my question would be when do you recommend for a brand to start thinking about internationalizing?
I don't think there is a time. I think once you
How many stores are you distributing to already?
12.
In Mexico?
Yes, we started with 3 in Palacio de Hierro, which is our
Oh, wonderful.
and we did very well, so they gave us another 3. And
So you're like an elevated active brand.
No, actually, what we do is our prices are way lower than the usual brands, but we are made in Mexico go with local fabrics and stuff like that, so they like that, and the price point is a little bit lower.
More accessible.
That has helped us a lot, because we feel the gap that wasn't there. Everything was more expensive.
Yeah.
And we offer like tennis, clothing, and golf,
Tennis.
like more specialty, that is usually way more expensive, so that has opened like a space for us.
Interesting.
I think, I don't think there is a right time. I think the right time is the time that you think, okay, I want to do it, but then you have to start preparing yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so,
But knowing that you're distributing to 12 stores, that you're at Palacio, those are all attractive points, even to communicate to the US buyers, like, oh, they're at Palacio de Hierro, the most respected luxury retailer in Mexico, right? Department store in Mexico. And it sounds like you have decent revenue too, considering your distribution, so it sounds like you might have money to invest to internationalize, so maybe now is the time.
yes.
Depends on how big you are.
Yes. I prefer to. And also I think just one thing on the storytelling. I like the storytelling, I like also the story doing, because storytelling, let's do it. That's it. Let's take a selfie everyone so that we...
Yeah. Yay!